please be seated. Housekeeping messages. There are no fire alarm tests planned for this evening, so if the alarm sounds, please leave the chamber by the nearest exit and restore, and follow the illuminated exit signs and assemble in the car park at the rear of the building. You have the right to film this meeting if you so wish, but I would like to know before we begin whether anyone in the room plans to do this. If you intend to film the meeting or take part in it, please indicate now. Okay. The first item on the evening's agenda is apologies for absence. We've just got Councillor Cartridge and Duffy. Is there any more apologies?
I'm swimming too.
The next item on the agenda is the confirmation of minutes. Can I please have a propose that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 7th of March 2024 be approved as a correct record? Yes, thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Councillor Stevenson, would you like to say a word?
On the board to you, Madam Mayor. Page 6, announcement. I hope you will allow me to say a few words. I'm not quite sure what the situation is with regard to the script on this.
Councillor Stevenson.
I know you've got the clock on me. So
No, it's not announced that.
right,
Is it regarding the minutes?
No, you got.
We'd like to just sit.
it's 64.
No, I got there yet, Dad.
Would you like
Oh,
to
you
sit
haven't
down?
got it yet. Okay.
Are you proposing an amendment to paragraph 64 of the minutes?
I'm not proposing anything at all. I'm going to say, Michael, what I'm going to say when I get the opportunity. Well, we can have an amendment, but I certainly want to say something.
Obviously, I've been quickly, Councillor Stevenson.
Yes,
Okay, quickly.
what it is, I'll be quite. Normally, when you get a new system like this, which I consider has been plucked out of the air, you mention who the actual candidates are, and you haven't done that this time. You've just mentioned Councillor Preston. You haven't mentioned who the other candidate was. Now, fortunately, I happen to know who the other candidate was. But I'm not telling anybody. We'll keep that as a secret. So why have you not put both candidates? You know, one can be congratulated, one can get consolation.
Councillor Stevenson.
No.
Stevenson's not
The
proposing
question
an
is,
amendment to the minutes. That's what happened at the meeting.
Yeah.
the question is,
Councillor
in
Stevenson.
future, please
Councillor
mention
Stevenson, would you
who
just like to
the
sit
other
down,
candidates
please?
or other
Would you
candidates are.
sit down? So
Thank
obviously
you
it's not
very much.
amendment to the minutes, okay? Thank you. Yes, it's been seconded and everything, so it doesn't know which one. Yes, would everybody like to just go to the vote, please? All in favour? Thank you. The minutes of the 7th of March meeting are confirmed. The next item on the agenda is item 3, the declaration of interest. Does any members or officers have any interest to anything to declare on the agenda, please?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm just declaring an interest on behalf of Sarah Carver for agenda item number 10. She'll leave the room at that point while that agenda is being considered. Thanks.
item is item 4, announcements, which I have just a couple of announcements to make. Obviously, at the last meeting, I was having a last fundraising event, which I can now say is Thursday the 9th of May at Hampton Village Hall. I've got an audience with Derek Spence and Terry Pashley, which obviously there was international football players. So they obviously between them they have almost 800 appearances between local clubs, which was Blackpool, Burnley and Borough. So if anybody would like to join me this evening, the tickets are £5 and I have actually got some here for you. The next one is obviously, I started my mayoral year obviously 2 years ago, and I haven't had when I was mayor 2 years ago, we actually had a Civic Sunday. So I'm going to have a Thanksgiving service on Sunday the 12th of May. So I hope you can join me then. And I'm just going to ask now, obviously, Councillor Preston, if she, the mayor-elect, if she'd want to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to thank for the opportunity, and I'd also like to add that within this I have a few things with that in terms of who my deputy is going to be, and I've actually got Councillor Nichols, and I appreciate the support that I've had so far from everybody, so thank you.
The next item is item 5, public questions and statements. However, there are no questions from the public this evening. The next item is item 6, questions on notice from councillors. Again, there are no questions on notice from councillors. We'll now move on to the next item, which is the executive report. A polite reminder that each speaker has 3 minutes only, and there will be 10 minutes of speaking overall for each executive report. Please clearly indicate by raising your hand if you wish to speak. Please also note that I may refuse supplementary questions in order to ensure that as many different members as possible are able to ask a question or make a comment within the 10 minutes allocated. So the first report is the leader of the council. So Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of quick updates on the devolution. I met with the other district leaders recently. We had a very productive meeting with regards to how we were going to nominate district representatives onto the combined authority and onto the combined authority subcommittees. We agreed an outline proposal. Certain leaders that I expect could be a problem weren't there, so we'll wait and see what they think about it when we next meet, but it was a much more productive meeting than I had expected. And if that's carried on, then I don't expect any problems and any disagreements, and we've got things in there to ensure that minority groups, which is what we as Conservatives are on district leaders, do have some protection, so we're not just left with the bits they don't want. With regards to the LGA peer review, that's taking place on the 18th to the 20th of June. Representatives of the LGA came to Management Board yesterday to fill us in on that process. It'll be good to take part in that because we've not had one since 2017 because we were due to have one and that was scuppered by the pandemic. Happy to answer any questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Fail, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The leaders' report to January's full council stated little progress seems to be being made at Hill House. It could have gone on to say the enterprise zone is massively underperforming. Although in this latest report, the leader rightly highlights some potential positive climate change action on Hill House and refers to a good pipeline of inquiries, the overall picture is pretty gloomy. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee has not had a report on the cumulative number of jobs gained since June 23. However, at the ONS meeting, it was reported that to March 2023, only 135 jobs had been created, with the Enterprise Zone Master Plan boasting that by 2035, job numbers would rise from 1,650 to over 3,000. One would expect in the region of 450 plus jobs having been created. That is less than a third of those jobs have been created is of huge concern. With an anticipated 20,000 increase in Wyre's population in the 2011-2031 local plan period, the area is crying out for jobs. But rather than reacting the correct way to this underperformance, the action taken was to significantly and seemingly arbitrarily lower the jobs target. Following the lowering of the target, the business growth project was reported as green in November 23. Amazingly, that report stated there were no concerns very close to the target. In reality, the Enterprise Zone Jobs project should have been showing as red, and far from there being no concerns, there were mounting concerns with the huge underperformance. This sort of apathetic approach to job creation in Wyre can only succeed in helping to increase the numbers commuting out of the borough, adding to motorist woes and further damaging Wyre's economy. But not content with moving the goalposts, the said goalposts have now been disposed of completely, with the project supporting job creation at Hill House no longer being reported to ONS. February's ONS report says it will now be monitored within the service, whatever that means. What does the leader think about this sort of unhelpful reporting and concealing of key performance data? Scrutiny requires transparency, does it not? And even more importantly, is the leader going to address the shortage of jobs, or will this council continue to close its eyes to the needs of a growing population? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This is always the interesting thing with Labour and Councillor Fail, is you'll notice that they've poked and made criticisms and things while completely ignoring the reality, but also not offering any suggestions for how we create jobs. And say we are not reacting in the correct way. What is the correct way? They don't know. The reality is, Madam Mayor, that the Hill House Enterprise Zone is underperforming. I've never hidden that. I've never pretended otherwise. It is not creating the amount of jobs that we wanted it to when we spent a lot of time getting it its status as an enterprise zone. I am as disappointed in that as everybody else is. It is owned by a private landowner. The problem is that we don't control and we don't own the enterprise zone. Now, in Blackpool, they do. They have much more control to be able to put things on there like they want to try and push that. Unfortunately, we don't own the EZ. So why are we not reporting on that figure anymore? Because it is beyond our control. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee should scrutinise the performance of this council. If that was still on there, you'd be scrutinising NPL models.
Councillor Belshaw, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did have a long question written out. I think it's somewhere on my phone and I can't find it. So I'm going to go right down to the very nitty-gritty. It is regarding the devolution deal. I'd like to know whether you agree that 0.001% of Lancashire's population is enough of a voice of the people to be heard.
That's when it's a similar turnout to you get anywhere on these sorts of things, Councillor Belshaw. The public aren't as interested in the devolution deal as we are. It does not generate much interest from the public at all. That's proven by those figures. The fact that the public have chosen not to engage with the consultation is not a reason not to do it. It's investment for Lancashire. Some people think it's not good enough. Some people think it's not the right deal. But a deal is better than the alternative, which is no deal.
No. I'll go on to Councillor Higginson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's page 14, Theatres Update, 5.1. And before I offer my congratulations to the lease people that's going to be running the theatre, I'd like some clarification, please. I'd like to know what sort of company this CRE81V Group Limited is. Will they be, and more importantly, will they still be accountable to this authority and consequently the council taxpayers of Wyre? Or is it just another exercise of this council's abdication of delivering in its responsibility, providing good theatre in the borough as we edge closer to privatisation? Sorry to be cynical, but I just want some clarification. Thank you.
I'm not sure what that responsibility to provide theatres is, but I don't recognise it as a statutory one, that's for sure. Happy to answer this question, Madam Mayor. What sort of company is it? Well, if you've read any of the press over it, and you read the description of that company at 5.1 of the report, you would know it's a local theatre company who are already one of the biggest users of Poulton-le-Fylde Theatre, and there are obligations within their lease to continue to offer it for community use. They will continue to use it. The current people who use it will continue to use it. Their business model requires them to use it for it to work. All this does is take the cost of it away from the council and allow somebody dedicated to run it in the community's interest. It's a good thing. It's not privatisation. It's not taking profit away from local government, because we lost a lot of money on it. They will hopefully, I hope they make a small profit, because if they do, they'll reinvest it, I'm sure, back into it, or if they take some of it home with them, good for them. However, this is about them having Poulton-le-Fylde Theatre as a community asset. They have contractual obligations to do that. It will improve, mark my words.
And are they accountable to us?
Thank you for that.
Well, with respect, he didn't answer the question. I did ask him. That's the leader. Will they still be accountable to the authority?
Could you listen to the Mayor, Councillor Higginson? She's told you to shut up.
That concludes 10 minutes for the leader's report. We'll now move on.
Shameful.
Thank you, Councillor Higginson. Oh, you'll be leaving. I'll be standing again and leaving. That concludes the leader's report. We'll now move on to the report of the resources portfolio holder. Councillor Mackay, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only thing I'd like to add is finally we've got the 2021 accounts signed off. Anyone who's heard me talk on this knows I've been chasing for this for the last 3 years, so this is excellent news. We've actually got those signed off and they'll be on the website soon. As the report states, it's out the other year accounts for 22 and 23 are out of our hands, but yeah, good news. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Councillor Stevenson, please, Brian Stevenson.
I'm obliged to you, Madam Mayor. Right. Page 18, 3.3. Household support funding. Now, I don't intend to get too political about this, but you know, well, not too much. What we have here, it appears, is a sticking plaster promise of some action by your government in 6 months' time. Well, in my that isn't good enough. Other areas in England have more money for schools, more holiday vouchers, goods, clothes, etc., etc. So, what we really need is what my party are proposing. And that's in contrast with what you're proposing.
Councillor Stevenson, is there a question
Three
in that?
breakfast clubs in every primary school. And all of these things I've mentioned are going to be there. School holiday vouchers, goods,
Councillor
clothes,
Stevenson,
etc.,
is there a question
etc.
for Councillor
Need a question.
Isn't it time this council stood up for the children of Wyre? And isn't it time they went to the government and said, get a move on? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Well, you'll be pleased to know then that this council in the last 6 months has distributed via HSF4 £760,000 worth of school food vouchers. We've £37,500 for school uniforms, £48,000 for food banks. This council does support its residents.
For 6 months.
Well done.
6 months.
Would you like to put your mic off? Councillor Stevenson, thank you. Is there any more questions? No? That concludes the consideration of the resources portfolio holder report. We'll now move on to the report of the street scenes, parks and open spaces portfolio holders. Councillor Bridge, would you please introduce your report?
My report's before you, and I'll attempt to answer as best I can.
Councillor Fail, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In your last report on dog fouling in October 23, I was pleased to commend the improved focus on the dog fouling problem. Sadly, you weren't here to hear that. In less than 3 months, from July mid-September, 20 dog fouling related fixed penalty notices were handed out. A big improvement on some astoundingly low figures before that. In the report to this meeting, it seems the focus has slipped, with only 12 dog fouling related fixed penalty notices being handed out in the period from October to March. This is over double the period, and also at a time of year when the issue of owners not picking up after their dogs is far worse. With 98% of fixed penalties being for littering, it's clear what Wyre's priority is: revenue. And whilst that is the case, they'll continue going after the easy target, littering offenders. For the dog fouling problem to reduce, there has to be a deterrent and an understanding that there is a real risk of a fine. So do you agree that we need an increased focus on tackling the dog fouling problem, not less focus?
Well, first of all, you're basing your questions on two false premises. The first one is that it seems to be that you believe that we are no longer concentrating on dog fouling and concentrating on something else. And also, it seems to be that you seem to be saying that we're turning a blind eye to dog fouling. Now, you mentioned the time of year, which is when it's dark. We all know that's when dog fouling increases. It also makes it because people will not pick up in the dark the same as they do in the daylight. We have carried on as per. Nothing has changed. There's no orders have been given or nothing else about ignoring dog fouling. If the officer sees a dog foul and not be picked up, then the person will be approached and will be fined. I don't understand why you think all of a sudden they're just avoiding dogs. But also the other thing is as well, there's no easy target here. If you're littering, you're littering. So I won't call that an easy target. I'd still say those people still deserve to be punished and fined. You can't just have, it's not like being only slightly pregnant. If you're making the place a mess, then you deserve certain punishment for it.
Councillor Higginson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's on page 23. It's a curious question, really. I'm at a bit of a loss as to why on the table about patrol hours, in Thornton we have 103 hours compared to the other urban areas in the borough. There might be a simple answer to this, I don't know. The cynics amongst us might consider that more income can be generated in areas like Cleveland's, where there's opportunity perhaps to distribute fixed penalties. But I'm sure that isn't the case, is it? So if you could tell us why there is such a differential amongst those urban areas. It is 623 in Cleveland's, 562 in Fleetwood, and as you can see, 103 in Thornton. I was just curious as to why that might be. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Certainly, it's intelligence driven. So, for instance, when we get complaints about excessive dog fouling, for instance, then the officers will go to that area more frequently. They will concentrate on an area and then they will move on. You will probably find that in the next report on this, I think you'll find there will be maybe movement in figures where some other areas are being concentrated on. I can't say any more than that, really. It's just that where we know there's a problem, we tackle it. I don't know, outside pubs with cigarettes, for instance. You know, there's a problem, we go and
So
fix
the
it.
figures are variable then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last Friday, whilst we were away, someone crashed into the newly refurbished toilets in Garstang High Street. What concerns me is, obviously, there's a fence all the way round. We've got the Children's Festival coming up at the end of May, and bearing in mind insurance and all things like that, I'm just a bit concerned about those toilets. And I was wanting to make sure if they are out of use, would we be able to have some temporary toilets on that car park? Thank you.
Yeah, obviously we're aware of the situation. We're not sure whether we'll be able to get the toilets fully back into commission in time. But if not, we will have Portaloos. We will service all the same, be it for temporary or if we manage to get the toilets up.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If there's no more questions or comments. Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry, we didn't see the hand. We thought there was somebody in that area, so apologies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is regarding 3.2 of the report. I do note that the patrol hours have increased for Borough West. I just wondered, would it be possible to receive a breakdown of the hours for the Pilling Ward, if that's at all possible? Thank you.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I'll find out. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all questions and comments. That concludes the consideration of the Street Scenes and Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holders Report. We will now move on to the report of the Planning Policy Economic Development Portfolio Holder. So, Councillor Marinell, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Report to 4 members. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Martin, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Marinell, I see there is no mention of the Cleveland Town Centre consultation in your report, Council. So can I ask whether or not this council intends to incorporate into these plans the tackling of 2 of the biggest issues in my ward previously highlighted? Number 1, to end the misery of residents on Ellerbeck Road and other surrounding roads by tackling the chaos caused by the inappropriate parking of cars from a nearby business. And secondly, given that funding is from the Department for Levelling Up, facilitating the levelling out of the shopping centre paving. Thank you.
Respond, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you for the questions. The consultation's done, finished, so we are still looking at what's going to happen going forwards. I'll look at the stuff on Ellerbeck Road. I know parking's really bad around there. I go to Cleveland quite a lot walking the dog, so I know it's not brilliant. And for the pavements and stuff as well, really that's LCC. It's not down to Wyre Council. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Higginson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask if there's an update with regards planning policy and the flood of planning applications that this borough received for change of use of domestic dwellings to children's homes. This isn't a party political question either. I think we're all concerned about this. People on the planning committee will be very much aware that we're somewhat limited as to what we can and can't do with these submissions, and there is no doubt that we are getting probably more than our fair share of these sort of submissions, borough-wide actually. As a consequence perhaps of Blackpool Council, who in my opinion have the good sense to propose a policy which limits the amount of applications for the change of use to children's homes. I did speak to Mr Glover about this and he said that it was ongoing. I think this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, so I just wondered, I hope you're on board with this, everyone in the chamber actually, that it might help us as planners with what limited powers we have these days, but it might help us if we were to implement a similar policy. So do you have an update on this, please? Thank you.
Please, thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you for the question, Councillor Higginson. It's always been difficult, the care home question. Every application that comes forward has got to be looked at on its merits. I've got one coming up in my ward at the next planning committee meeting next Wednesday, which I'll be speaking out against, of course. I think most people speak out against them if there's reasons to. And if there's reasons to refuse application, then the committee members can refuse application if they've got grounds to do so. It's really difficult. We have put into place a format where anybody coming forward for a children's care home have to follow the format. They don't have to follow it, they can ignore it, but that will go against them when they come to planning committee, and the committee can ask them why have they not actually followed the format that's been laid down. But apart from that, like I say, every application that comes forward is based on an individual basis and it's got to be treated on those merits, I'm afraid. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor River, please.
I was pleased seeing 4.1 about the grant for biodiversity net gain, and I just wondered
yeah, it's just on what on the stuff that's coming forward to actually implement it all. The report's not there yet at the moment, but Len Harris has done a really big report on the biodiversity, which being on the PPG, you'll have seen some of that already. So it's basically being spent on actually processing the report and putting it all together. But when you do see the report when it comes forward, it is really, really substantial. And I thank Len for doing a massive amount of work on it, and he's done a really good job as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Swatton, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering if you could provide us an update on the Poulton-le-Fylde development. It seems to have come to a recent standstill. Is this due to the site no longer being developed, or have there been any more archaeological findings, or if there's anything else?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the question. I don't know. I've not, as far as I was aware, it was just progressing. So if it stopped, I'll find out from Steve Smith and planners, and I'll get back to him with a written answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Belshaw, please.
Right, you're in trouble now. No, honestly, I'm being very, very nice to you because you've done a wonderful job of working with us, all working together. It's been marvellous on Fleetwood Market, and to thank you on behalf of the Fleetwood residents.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Traders Forum, which was really interesting, and I'll be attending each Traders Forum going forward. I visit the market on a regular basis, basically on a weekly basis at the moment. I speak to traders all the time. I go out in stores and speak to them. I would like to welcome a new team member at the market, Emma Street, and she's done some amazing work already in the week she's been there. She's actually put some great figures together about the stalls and about vacancy and occupation numbers as well and things like that. So I really thank her for that, and that's going to be coming out on a quarterly basis too. So it will give us a better idea of where we stand. Currently, if members are interested, it's 79% occupied. That's had 181 stalls. She's actually done a breakdown of each part of the market, the main hall, the bird cage, and the annex and the outside part, what stalls are occupied and not occupied, and how occupied, whether it's leasehold or casual. So I really thank you for doing the work on that, and as I say, going forward, on a quarterly basis, that'll be done. Just a quick update on the heating. It's working, thank God. It is nice when you go in there. Interestingly, when I was in there last week, they were saying it was too hot. so sometimes you can't win. But the thing was in the main hall, because it's all glass on the ceiling now, when the sun comes out, it does get warm really quickly. But until the heating's completely sorted and we're completely happy with it, we won't be finishing practical completion till then. So you won't be getting any final payments until we're happy with that. Where the snagging's concerned, all the snags have been done. We're pleased with that. There are two new doors to put in there, but that'll be in the next financial year, so that'll be done going forward. So thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your kind remarks.
Councillor Fail, please. You've got just 2 minutes.
That's fine. It won't take that long. Just to add to what Councillor Martin said before. You say that the town centre paving is not down to Wyre. It's LCC. It's more complex than that. The paving area closest to the shops is owned by the shops themselves. But I see it's Wyre Borough Council's responsibility to facilitate the upkeep of that paving, if only from a community safety point of view. So maybe you could have a talk with Councillor Berry about this. But I think we should be, even if we don't do it, we should be facilitating the levelling out of that paving so that we can stop people tripping over regularly as they do. It's all the time, and it's a simple resolution, and somebody needs to take control of it. This is the problem when you've got two councils and neither are taking responsibility, and you've got an owner who's not taking responsibility either. So I just think that it would be good if Wyre Council took control and facilitated that with the help of County Council and the owners, obviously.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I will do. I'll have a look. I'll speak to Roger and I'll speak to planning as well, just see if there's anything we can do on that. Also, the County Councillor for the area as well, speak to them about it as well. I'd just like to mention one other thing. I'm sure you will be as pleased as I am, and like to congratulate Christian Fenn on the fantastic mural that's been done at the bus station.
It's very good.
Looks absolutely amazing. So thank you for your question, and I'll get back to you on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes the consideration considerations of planning policy and economic development portfolio holders report. We will now move on to the report of the neighbourhood services and community safety portfolio holders. So, Councillor Berry, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report before colleagues. I'll do my best to reply to any questions.
Okay, Councillor Swasham, please.
Thank you very much. I must confess, Councillor Berry, I am disappointed in your report. The lack of mention in regards to the environmental issues going on in Fleetwood at the moment, particularly the sewage spills in the Jameson roadside landfill. The sewage spills are of special concern to me as we're fast approaching the anniversary of the U2 pipeline burst. And the Gazette's recently, using EA data, published that we have had over near 1,100 sewage spills in the past year, a 200% increase from last time, and a near 7,000 hours worth of sewage, a near 300% increase over the previous year. Yet nothing again has been mentioned in your report, despite the fact that the environmental team from this council was sent not a week ago to address a sewage spill into the streets of Fleetwood. I was just wondering why we're not mentioning this in the report, despite the fact that it's been nearly a year since this has started. It's not been mentioned once. I was also wondering whether you agree with the statement that there is an ongoing health concern due to these environmental issues, or whether you agree with Councillor Conservative MP Paul Maynard, who happened to vote to allow this all to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's just deal with the sewage spill in Jameson Road. I think United Utilities, our officers went down there, United Utilities were there, and the findings I understand from UU is that was caused by people putting inappropriate things down the toilets.
For over a year.
That has caused the problem. There is a message there about what people should be putting down the toilets. It's advertised frequently by UU, and it's done other people sort of when people are builders, the builders swilling cement and plaster down, which solidifies in pipes and causes problems for flooding issues. So I think there is a public question that we shouldn't be putting certain things down the toilets and swilling things down public drains. As regards sewage spills as regards beach, I think we've first and foremost got to remember that the bathing water quality in Wyre at our two bathing areas, one in Cleveland, one in Fleetwood, are classified as good. Those are a result of tests that are made by the EA during the month of May to at the end of September of last year. Obviously, a new season is going to begin. I will mention that other areas have not had that classification; they've been lower. And as a result of that, we are all going to meet in a week's time, Fylde Council, Wyre Council, and Blackpool Council to discuss pressures that we're going to put on UU and the Environmental Agency. The problem is, because we've got to work in partnership, we're better together, the three councils working together, we can do it, we've got the force there to try and make some changes. The problem is, as you know, that the EA allow UU to spill when a lot of rainwater comes down. They're allowed to spill. That is the major problem that we've got. So the first question is, we need to be where can we go to reduce those spills that are allowed under the present system? We need to be able to have better facilities for retaining water that comes down. What can we do? It may take time, but we need to put that in progress. There will be some unauthorised spills, and obviously those we need to look into. We need to have some data on that, why those are happening, and what the EA are doing about it. So yes, we are doing something about it, very much so. So we're working together with the other two councils.
I'll move on now to Councillor Sorrison, please.
This is a question about community safety, a bit of a statement that's going to be required before that though, so please bear with me. Imagine you've endured 13 years of persistent antagonism and antisocial behaviour from a neighbour to include acts of attempted arson, criminal damage to a listed building and threats. Imagine restraining yourself for 13 years, reporting acts to the police neighbourhood team, hereafter referred to as MPT, that were ignored, which could easily have been prevented from escalating by acting in the form of issuing a council community protection order. Then imagine the neighbour introducing a friend to the land between the two properties, who then mirrors the neighbour's antagonistic actions and fly tips twice upon your property. Imagine going about matters the correct way, reporting these incidents to the council, and when the council enforcement officer investigates, it is discovered the fly tipper is the son of a Wyre council officer. The investigation is brought to a standstill on the strength of the council officer saying not the evidence to prove the crimes, and the council put the enforcement officer under investigation. 2 further acts of fly tipping take place, totaling 4. The council could not care less. Despite claiming they do not fine for fly tipping on private property, an investigation report proves this was not the policy at the time. Matters escalate in an alleged further crime against you, which is now subject to private legal action you have been forced to take. In contrast, your actions have never resulted in a visit from, a phone call, warning, or even words of advice from the police. You push this council into act about fly tipping. They cease responding to you, calling you vexatious in your search for answers. Your reward? A knock on the door in August 22, when you are charged by a conveniently since retired NPT officer for alleged harassment of the council officer, assault of the spouse, and criminal damage of the council officer's son's property. There is no evidence to support the charges. Following your interview, you are told no charges are to be brought, but in frustration at the outcome, the NPT officer puts you back in a cell for 2 hours until the powers relent to charge you, all despite no prior charging advice ever having been sought from the CPS. After you are charged, the council finally comes alive, but not to protect you. Oh no, you are placed on a CPW by a Wyre council, despite no prior history of any action ever having been taken by the police against you. I'm not going to stop. You, your neighbour, and the council officer's son are put on a CPW, all on alleged equal footing, presented as being to calm the situation down. But when you highlight the breaches of others, the council ignore you. Despite you having carried out no criminal
You've got 30 seconds now to terminate what you're saying.
Anti-social act against the council officer and family, Wyre council automatically take the word of their officer and the NPT officer, who work closely with this council, placing a further CPW against you in favour of the council officer and her husband, leaving them protected but open to harassing you without restriction, which they did and continue to.
Stop talking, I will
this
have to
information
stand
of you being on a CPW is shared by
Councillor
Councillor
would you like?
Turned by him as the council have an injunction to
Thank you.
at least one other
Please.
councillor, and the council do not care about this either. This is about corruption in this council, and the public need to know. This is a public interest matter, and I'm not going to stop.
Well,
If you
I'm
want to
afraid
stop,
I'm
you
afraid you're going to stop now,
the information
because I
of
am
you
going
being
to
a CPW
remove you from
is
the
shared by.
chamber.
If you don't want the public to know about corruption in this council, and you're removing me for that reason, that says everything about this council. It's shared by council. Turned by him as the council have an injunction on you to at least one other councillor, and the council do not care about this either. Two of your criminal charges are rapidly dropped. I can hear you.
I know you can.
Out of malice and their untrue testimony, failing to criminalise the council officer and spouse take advantage of this one-sided CPW and ironically harass you. They receive words of advice from an immediate response officer, not one in NPT. What you had been charged with without evidence was now their act with evidence. The council officers seem to ignore this CPW.
I'm suspending the meeting from now.
Despicably, the council officer has also created.
Stand and leave, please. Thank you, councillors. Would you all like to seats, please? Thank you.
This information of you being on the CPW is
I'm
shared
going
by
to get removed.
turned by him, the council have an injunction on you to at least one of the council, and the council do not care about this either. Two of your criminal charges are rapidly dropped out of malice and their untrue testimony. Failing to criminalise you, the council officer and spouse take advantage of one-sided CPW and ironically harass you. They receive words of advice from an immediate response officer. Fine. Not one in the name of the police system. what you have been charged with without evidence was
Mayor,
now with evidence.
proposal that
The
council not be heard any
officer's
further.
son seems to ignore the CPW.
All in
The council
favour?
is interested in doing anything about either. The council officer has also created bad feeling about you in this building by showing an edited video of the alleged assault to senior members. A foolish act, but this charge too was quashed, ruled as no case to answer. Without trial, in May 23, you are acquitted of all 3 charges. Once acquitted, you send a full police statement made against you in the community safety team of this council to prove the implausibility, contradictory evidence, and the blatantly embarrassing lies therein evidencing. You are the one requiring protection from this dangerous council officer and their family there and then. This was also
the police is being called.
fine. The harassment of you continues to this very day, well after tonight, and appears supported by some senior officers and councillors. When you told the council this would continue, and you've said, when you pleaded with this council for a CPW to be placed on these people so you could live in peace, you were told by the CEO if you persist, the council will regard you as vexation and will not communicate about the matter to you any longer. It is likely the relevant officers who appears your application to CPW to be defended have its role whereas in contrast, the CPW against you in August 22 required little, if any, evidence on the part of the council officers and their families. My questions are, why will this council blindly believe the words of a council officer over the evidence of a resident? Also, what is this council now going to do about safeguarding residents from unscrupulous council officers, their family and associates? And what message do these acts send out to residents of this borough, as well as the management and councillors who have supported this, if not one of corruption to its very core? Too many Wyre council officers have little, if any, respect for councillors, and if they cannot respect elected members, what hope for residents? For anyone not in the know, and if not obvious, the you refer to is me, and if this can happen to me, this can happen to anyone who counts the officers of this council. Every resident should be concerned. This is a disgrace, and those involved are shameless in their acts.
You are my sunshine. You make me happy.
I would love to see how you cope.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm on the way, don't you worry.
Goodbye.
We're leaving now, Councillor Sorrison.
Clear. Carry on.
You did close this.
No, I didn't. It's very interesting you shut down for highlighting corruption in this council. That is telling to all residents.
Just go away.
Without shut and going. Clearly. Very well.
He'll come back.
Well, I think the 10 minutes are up on that one. We're moving on. Okay. Right, councillors. We're going to move on now to the Okay, councillors. We will now move on to the report of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holder. Councillor Owen, would you like to please introduce your report?
Can we not?
No.
Just carry on. All right then. Okay. We'll carry on with Councillor Beavers then from the previous one, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, I know we've all forgot what Roger said, but I haven't. So I just want to say that when you said it was government policy about the poo being in the it was the environmental agency's fault that there was poo in the sea. I have to say that it's government policy that we gave the United Utilities and water companies permission to put sewage in the sea. So I'd just like to put that right. And also, Roger, we've been working on the landfill site together, and I would like to thank you for that. And we had a really fruitful
meeting last Friday with Transwaste, the Environment Agency and councillors and officers. I was just wondering whether you was going to give a report to this meeting tonight, because I just think that most of the Poulton-le-Fylde as well as the Fleetwood councillors are affected by this. And let me tell you, this morning at 3:30 when they let the stick bomb off again in Fleetwood, which lasted until about 9:30 and then came back at lunchtime. It's been horrendous. We actually thought that, you know, that we're making progress. We've had some really extremely strong winds in the last couple of days, and we were all congratulating ourselves and patting ourselves on the back, and then it came back ferociously at 3:30 this morning, and it's been in Fleetwood till probably tea time tonight. So I'm just wondering if you would give that report to the council, because I'm sure people are interested about the health and well-being of the population. And I have had some correspondence from the doctors to say that people are now going to the doctors with health concerns about the smell and having breathing difficulties, nosebleeds and headaches.
Quick response there, Councillor Barry, then we can move on.
Yeah, it was a very fruitful, I think, a fruitful meeting in the fact that it was able for councillors, you know, yourself and Councillor Bowen and myself to echo the worries, concerns and the problems that people are suffering both in Fleetwood and Poulton-le-Fylde, and in fact businesses as well. You know, we're a tourist area and we don't want to lose that trade. I think it was important that we got across our deep concerns, and I think they took it on board. I think through a new consultant that they've appointed, I think that they realised that they've made mistakes in how they've gone about this. They should have told people exactly what they were doing. They're now going to alter things. They've got this consultant. He's now going to have he's going to set up a website. He's going to communicate with councillors, and importantly, he suggested that a community liaison group was set up involving Transwaste, EA, some councillors, and most importantly, some residents, so that they can get across their concerns about what's happening, and that we get some better communications. And of course, we've got to mention that they've been given until the 15th of May to sort this problem out. It is a massive problem. Nobody's trying to minimise the problem. So we need it sorted for everyone's benefit. So we'll have to see if that date is met, and we'll deal with it from there through the group. Thank you for your assistance.
Thank you for that. Obviously that extends that the 10 minutes is up on that. So we're now, like I say before, we'll now move on to the report of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holders. Councillor Bowen, will you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report is before you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Rimmer.
Just a quick question. It looks like the Big Friendly Giant went really well, and it's great that there's some more funding for Culturepedia. I noticed that there's a plan showing Pilling and then either Priest or Spellman or Hambleton. I wondered if there would be funding or the possibility for both Priest and Hambleton to get a showing, or because they haven't had one previously, or if there's a reason that it says there'll be only one more, and that's 2.1 of your report.
Well, what we've done is trying to reach out to the rural areas now. We're reaching out to the rural areas and other areas to try and do the whole borough. Anyway, so as you see, there's these rolled down stories, etc., taking place, and hopefully we will be able to carry on, but it just depends on funding.
Councillor Brian Stevenson.
I'll go to you, Madam Mayor. I think that, right, you want to know what I'm going to be talking about, don't you? Page 35, Marine Hall, 5.1, 5.2. I think it'd be appropriate for me to start off by saying to be or not to be. That's the question. Right, now, anyone who knows me in this room, I'm sure you all know me well, I like the intelligent approach. I like to say some sensible stuff, as well as some serious stuff with a little bit of light-heartedness. Now, let's talk about what is going to be on further at Marine Hall. Lee, would you agree with me that we could do with some, with some more Shakespeare? Or George Bernard Shaw, some serious stuff. Have you any influence on the people who are running this? Have you any influence of what they can put on? And do you not think it would be a good suggestion if everybody agrees with you to be here, that we could look at putting on something, something serious, and I'm sure the people would enjoy it. What do you think? I'd love to hear, and I certainly would like your support. Thank you.
We've got a consultant from GJG for looking into everything at the Marine Hall, starting with the staff and what events they put. Are you listening? What events they put on, and also trying to increase the wording of what we've got. But it's early days yet. He's only been in post about a week, so just keep an eye on everything what's going on and see what he comes up with, basically.
Thank you very much for that, Lynn. I'll look forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more questions or comments for the portfolio holder? No? So that concludes the consideration of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holders Report. Now is the opportunity for members of Cabinet to make comments or ask questions on the reports of those colleagues. Councillor Vincent, would you like to?
I'll be very brief. Obviously, Roger's dealt very succinctly with your question, Councillor Beavers, with regards to the environmental side of things, which comes with his portfolio. Wyre are the landlord of the site that Transwaste now have. I am in the process of speaking, and we're due to have a meeting with the legal department about what our options are if they are not in compliance with their statutory obligations by the 15th of May as landlord. Because if they are in breach of the terms of their lease, that's not acceptable. So we will be making sure that they are compliant with everything. And as landlord, if we have sticks to beat them with, then we will beat them with them.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, if there's no other, that concludes the consideration of the executive's report. We'll now move on to the agenda item 8, the calendar of meetings 25 to 26. So, Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have proposed the recommendation with one amendment on page 43. It says that the council meeting of the 18th of May 2025 is the annual meeting for 2023-24, and that's clearly wrong. Other than that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, is there a seconder?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay, those in favour of the recommendation, please show. Okay, it's a unanimous decision, so thank you very much. The recommendation is approved. The next item is item 9, review of the staff pay line. Again, Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very pleased to bring this report forward. It's been a lot of hard work, and thanks to all the officers involved and the Chief Executive for leading on this. After years of percentage increases, because we were already at the bottom end of the pay scale for councils, our staff have suffered the compound effects of that. The percentage of a smaller amount is a lower amount. So this is about rebalancing it. We're not one of the best paying councils now, but we're also not one of the worst. We've tried to be slap bang in the middle, because I think that's the fairest place for us to try and position ourselves. We've made concessions to the unions, and they've made a couple of concessions to us, which I'm grateful. So we have an agreement. This is with full union support now. So I'm happy to move this, Madam Mayor, and it will mean a well-earned pay rise for all of our hard-working staff, because it's very important as we move into a time of transformation, and new Chief Executive and new Director who will come to, that we are taking all of the staff with us, and that they know how valued they are, and nothing says we value you more than a pay rise.
straight for the members to the recommendations. So those in favour? That's a unanimous decision. So the recommendations are approved. So the next item is item 10, the appointment of director of the transformation and change.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
There we are. Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and the proposal?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was a good process. We had a lot of applicants for the job. It was well sought after. We've got the very good appointment. Lots of experience with regards to both the public sector and the private sector, both with transformation and other areas. So it was a unanimous decision. I'm really confident that we've made the right choice. It'll start on Monday, which is even better. So I'm happy to move that report back.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the proposal?
Yes, I'm pleased to second that.
Lovely. Is there any comments or questions? No. So again, we'll go straight to the vote. So the members vote now for the recommendation. All in? Yes, thank you. The recommendation is approved. So would you like to come in, please? The next item is item 11, the Council's Development Strategy 24 to 28, the Council's Development Programme 24 to 25, and Wyre Council's Skills Framework. So, Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and propose recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, happy to propose a recommendation.
Is there a second of the proposal? Okay, questions about Councillor Fail? Come in there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see this strategy as a living document, and although I support most of it, there are things that need to change. For instance, it says councils are expected to understand the council plan. No problem with that. But it then says promote it. Well, that might be okay for councillors who voted for the council plan, but for those who felt it needed amending, the expectation is a bit unrealistic. What is also unrealistic is the statement, leave politics at the door. It is flippant, it doesn't recognise what actually goes on, and is unlikely ever to be adhered to. If for yourself, if the leave politics at the door statement was adhered to, this council would now have Labour councillors on some of the committees. If the leave politics at the door statement was adhered to, Labour councillors would have the same ability as all councillors to make amendments to the minutes of meetings. If the leave politics at the door statement was adhered to, it is highly unlikely the Mayoralty Task Group would have recommended retaining the status quo with regard to the mayoral goal, nor coming up with a ludicrous system for choosing the mayor. If the leave politics at the door statement was adhered to, all ONS members, committee members, would be allowed to do their job and scrutinise without any hindrance. It is disappointing that only 29 councillors completed the Strengths and Development questionnaire. So although making its completion mandatory might seem the right step, it's not enforceable and it might not have its desired effect. For those wanting a personal development plan, I'd say the questionnaire is helpful. For those who don't want a PDP or have no urgent need in their own minds for training, fine. But completion of the form takes less than 5 minutes and it's helpful for democratic services to fully understand training need. Not completing it might mean there's no training requirement, but equally it might just be down to apathy. Democratic services aren't going to know. So I'd ask we all complete them, even if it says no training requirement. I know there were glitches in the online form when I filled in mine, so that needs resolving for next time. But for those not good with their iPad, I'd ask for that form to be brought to full council for members to fill in prior to full council starting and then handed back immediately. To summarise, the strategy is work in progress, but perhaps needs an injection of realism in a couple of places. Thank you.
I'll take his point on there. I think the problem is where if you don't say try and leave politics at the door, then
You're not doing it properly, are you?
So have we got committee chairman place next time?
Well, I would have to think any of you were competent to do that. Moving on. So anyway, I take his point, but I think that if you start amending documents on that basis, if you had all the documents as the harsh reality rather than being for what we would aspire to, I think we'd probably do the council a disservice.
Okay, does that conclude the debate? So would the members now please vote on the recommendation? Those in favour show. Okay, that is a unanimous. Oh, sorry. Those against? Oh, sorry. Those four, sorry. Well, let's start again. Four.
I've shared it very well.
Councillors, so we're nearly finished. Those against? Any? Abstentions? Recommendations approved. So the next item is item 12, the periodic report, Councillors Development Group. So, Councillor Birch, would you please introduce the report?
Yes, I'm happy to introduce the report, though bearing in mind I am the vice chairman of the group. Our friend over here, who I'm delighted to see is in attendance tonight, is the chair of our group, Councillor Andrea Kay, and I've just been standing in her absence. But I hope you've all read it, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Any questions, Councillor Renner?
It's not a question, just a note for the record that I attended the December meeting, so I've asked for an amendment on that. And unfortunately, the March one clashed with a precinct on council personnel meeting. Thank you.
The report is noted. So the next item in
Sorry, Madam Mayor, could I just say, following on from what Councillor Fale said, if we don't get a higher number of those forms returned to democratic services, we will not get the level 1 review. It's something astronomically high that we need to have. Something like 90% of people have to complete the form, and that is what could stand between us getting it and not achieving it. So I would urge everybody to fill it in, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So the report is noted. So the next item is item 13, the Overview and Scrutiny Committee Annual Report. So in the absence of Councillor Cartridge, Councillor Baxter, would you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On behalf of our Chair, Peter Cartridge, the report before members, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions?